How goes it, family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day and enjoying another day of being alive. Today's discussion, I'm going to be talking about moving to a cheaper state without an economic plan. Now, I know we live in a time period where a lot of people are, especially since during the recession times of 2007, 8, 9, 10, all that great stuff, a lot of people have left the most expensive country and move to cheaper areas. I always give the great example, like you've had a lot of people leave the DMV, Washington, D.C., metropolitan area, Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland area, and they've moved to the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. A lot of people have left Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, and New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and moved down south. But they moved to the Southwest or the Midwest, some parts of the Midwest, wherever it's cheaper. You've had people that have left the West Coast and they moved to the Southwest or the South. Places like Arizona, Nevada, or Texas, Louisiana, because, the cost of living is much cheaper. And it's like I said, I get it. I truly get it. The problem with a lot of people that are doing this, now if you're retired, this definitely does not apply to you. But the problem with a lot of people that are doing this, you have a lot of people that are just cool with the status quo and cool with being normal and think just getting by and just being able, just surviving is cool, and to have that mindset to pass down from generation to generation doesn't leave any family wealth of any level, on any level, for your last name. And that's troubling a lot because you're seeing that ever so more so often with a lot of people, especially with a lot of African Americans, so another story for another day though. When it comes to financial intelligence and the implementation of financial intelligence, because hey, here at Larry's Anything Goes, financial intelligence is our business. I might sell products, but the main reason why I started this channel was to spread the financial intelligence movement. Okay, the financial literacy, of looking at money from different aspects outside of surviving and buying crap that you don't need. That's the main reason why I started this channel. And for those of you who are listening or watching, hopefully you do enjoy that. But I've met two kinds of people when it comes to money in my life. I'm just speaking from my experiences. One kind of the people that I've met means that they mean well, and they think that if their cost of living goes down and they somehow, some way keep their current salary, then all will be well with the world. Now, I always say that it starts with your mindset first, okay? And the other kind basically is the people that look at money from I've survived off of money this long, me making a living. Now how can I create some sort of asset with the right people in order for me to not just live paycheck to paycheck for the rest of my life? That's why I said there's two kinds of people. But I will stick to the story at hand because I could talk about this all day, every day. In my personal opinion, but it always starts with the mindset. And if you have a job mindset, and remember that a job stands for just over broke. If you have that mindset, the more than likely you will keep living paycheck to paycheck. It's just a reality. It's a fact. And there's just no other way to put it. And I'm not downing anybody who has to live paycheck to paycheck. I'm just saying that if you just think that if you're that the only way that you're really going to elevate is by getting a raise and not trying to elevate by having an economic team and making economic power moves with your team, then you will, for the most part, continuously live paycheck to paycheck. I remember one thing, I'm not going to mention his name, but a great boss of mine, who he now lives in Texas, loved working under this man. I remember one thing that he said to me back in 2008. Usually with most people, he says, and I quote, usually with most people, once their incomes go up, they want to spend more money on things that do not lift them up the economic ladder. And at that time, I didn't really quite understand. But through the years, I actually totally get it now, because I've seen a lot of people's paychecks go up, their incomes go up, and whatnot, but they're not thinking about making any sort of a power move or buying a franchise, opening up a real estate company, opening up an online business, whatever have you, opening up a small family business. There's never the talks of that. It's usually the talks of, I'm going to get this bigger house that most of it's going to collect dust. I'm going to get this fancier car, which I'm going to use most of the time just driving up and down the highway to go to work so I can afford it. Like I said, I'm not downing anybody that does this. I'm just saying, this is usually the mindset. But there's never usually a mindset, hey, let me buy an real estate investment property. Let me look into buying what sort of franchise I could actually buy into. What kind of business, turnkey business, can I purchase in order for me to not only have a backup plan, but to double, quadruple my money and get more tax write-offs than the average Joe? There's usually not that mindset, especially in the DMV area, because you have a high influx of federal government population. Nothing wrong with being a federal government employee, but you have more of I'm going to climb the ladder, or you're working for a corporation, so I'm climbing the corporate or the government ladder instead of I'm going to create my own source of income so I don't have to be 100% dependent on a job. That conversation usually doesn't happen that often with most workers, and that usually, it's like I always say, this is why I don't really get along with most dudes. Football and basketball, because that plays such a huge difference in a working person's life, or just some stupid nonsense that's going on TMZ. I mean, who knows? But that's usually what goes on, with a lot of people. And it is what it is. I'm not downing anybody that does it. It's just like, it's not my thing. And I leave it at that. So that's the mindset that my former boss was talking about, and I agree with it. Usually with most people, once their incomes goes up, they don't really climb up the economic ladder. And this definitely happens with a lot of families who do not practice, quote unquote, group economics, like a lot of immigrant families do. And look, I say this 1,000 times, and I will say it till the day that I die. The one thing, and I keep saying it because when I walk out of my house, I see immigrant families, whether they're from Central South America, they're from Asia, they're from the Middle East, they're from Africa. I see them buying real estate. I see them opening small family businesses together. I see them selling and buying to each other. So that's those little small principles of group economics. And this is a lot of times, like, I see them, people that they don't even have a high school diploma. Sometimes they can't speak English, or they can't speak English that well. But they do it because there's an understanding with the family that, hey, the dollar's going to circulate and percolate, and we're going to collect assets. We didn't come to the United States to be normal. We could have been normal back in our home countries. We came here to be exceptional. And I always commend immigrants for that mindset, because that's where it starts. The mindset first, the education second, and the implementation third. That's just what it is. You can get all the education in the world, but if you're not implementing anything outside of just getting, then I don't know what to say. That's been done before. It's like, there's a lot of families that's been done over and over again. And even if it is the first time that you've done it in your family, it's a great accomplishment. But now then, what's the next step? So that's just one thing I could say, meaning that, and the one thing I said, the dollar circulates and percolates with the immigrant family. See how the dollars go around and around in circles? The dollar circulates in the immigrant families. Okay. They keep it in the family before it even goes anywhere else. And it really boils down to spending habits is the first key to being economically aware of your situation. Talk about working people. If you're already rich, this definitely does not apply to you. Say you move, and I always like to give a great example. Say if you move from the DMV area down to South Carolina with the same salary, which a lot of times that won't happen depending on the industry that you're in, but just say hypothetically speaking, you did. Okay. And you went down there with the same salary, all that good stuff, where we know that the cost of living is much cheaper compared to Northern Virginia. But you have more money to spend, and the average American with more money to spend will spend it instead of saving it or investing it. You have a lot of people who just live for the day and not tomorrow. And I know tomorrow's never promised, but hey, there's nothing wrong with having something tucked away. Even if something does happen to you, your family will prosper. Having that mindset of insurance plans, annuities, savings accounts, assets, just crazy concept, I know. I remember talking to somebody who moved from the DMV area who decided to move down to the South. Nothing wrong with that. It's something he was very interested in doing, and he did it, and I was happy for him. He and his family moved down south and bought a house that cost about $325,000. They lived in a home in the DMV area that cost around $300,000 to $35,000. So they got a home $10,000 less than the home that they purchased that they previously had in the DMV area. But now, hey, it's a $10,000 difference, right? And the taxes and the insurance may be a little bit different, maybe a little higher, just depending on the area. all that good stuff. Now, the home that he was obtaining was much bigger and had a lot more land. Awesome. Now, usually bigger home translates to more responsibilities, more maintenance to worry about, meaning more money that you will have to eventually spend, because that's just how it is when you own a property. Not, are you going to spend it every day? No, but eventually something will have to be replaced, something has to be repaired. That's the power in ownership. The thing is that, I say that at the end of the day is if your mortgage or rent only goes down $300 or $500, which isn't a lot of money anymore, and if there isn't some sort of a plan to invest that money into something that can make your employer an option, the person you work for an option in some sort of way, then I do not see prosperity outside of saving a little money or barely getting by. And I know for a lot of people, being able to save money means a lot, and that's great. But then a couple of years goes by, then what's your plan? That's the thing. Okay, great. You're finally able at a point in your life where you're making great money on your job, you're saving money, you're a homeowner. What's next? Okay, because a lot of people just figure, hey, I've made it. They go into retirement mode while they still have a job. I always call it that, being retired while you're still working, because there's no plan to advance economically outside of getting a raise. Excuse me. But I look at it like that. There needs to be some sort of a plan. And I was reading an article today. Thanks to Sammy Hill. Thank you for putting that out there to me. Reading an article today in regards to even if you have a business/economic mindset, you still have to be around people who have that mindset as well. Because if you're talking about trying to create a business and other ways that you can create economic prosperity, different annuities, different insurance plans, different stocks and bonds and things of that nature, making a purchase on a real estate property that might cash flow. That's what your mindset is on, but the person that you're engaging with, all they care about who the Redskins picked or who Chicago Bears picked and whomever, then you're around the wrong person. I'm just going to call it like I see it. If that's more on the priorities list than asset accumulation, you are friends with the wrong person. And I will say that, and that article hit the nail on the head. And I might even make a video about that one, because that's just the God's honest truth. And I'll leave it at that. Okay? You are the circle that you're with, no matter what, period. No other way to put it. The circle you're with is how you're going to end up, period. So if you're around losers, ultimately you will be a loser. There's no other way to put it. Okay, so back to the story at hand about investing your money. Because the thing at the end of the day is that, and I'm just going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real. If there isn't some sort of a plan to invest the money into something that can make your employer an option, and I said it once and I'll say that again, then prosperity is just the chances of it becomes lower and lower. And I'm not trying to deter anybody from moving down south or moving to the Midwest and wherever, even moving to a foreign country, wherever have you. Change of scenery is great for people. A lot of times it's great to live in a place that you're not familiar with and that into a place you've never lived in before. I get it. But you have to have a plan in place outside of just making the move, outside of just seeing what the area is like and all that good stuff. You have to have your own economic plan at the end of the day, and there's no way to slice and dice it. Now, and I would say this, unless you don't have to pay rent or pay a mortgage, or you're making a great American salary, even then, it's like, unless you're living in, and then the thing is, it's like, even if you're making a great American salary, unless you're living in a quote unquote third world country, your chances of your bank account increasing is slim to none if you're not surrounded by some sort of economic asset accumulation team. And keep that in mind, asset accumulation team. And that's just, this is being real. On this subject, I have done a multitude of research, but nothing beats personal experiences. And I implore everybody that you can do all the research you want at the end of the day, but ensure that you have the personal experiences. Try to get them yourself, and then you can make the right conclusion for your life, because everybody's life is different. Such as people that left the DMV area to places in the South and Midwest, with the cost living expenses are staying the same. And that happens a lot of times. The cost of living might go down, but the living expenses might stay the same. It's very easy to say, okay, well, I used to have to pay extra $300 a month for this, but I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm going to put that $300 into some more food, fancier stuff, car, fancier home, nicer IT products, which is a nicer phone, nicer computer, nicer TV, nicer furniture, the thing, the list goes on and on, and then a lot of times their expenses either goes up or their expenses stay the same. It's about the mindset at the end of the day. And I have this picture up here because a broke mindset, no matter where, it's like, because you see a picture of the city, people living in the city, but there's a lot of poor people who live in the country and live in small towns. I'm not knocking anybody who's poor. I'm not knocking anybody who lives in the city or in the country or in the suburbs. That's not what these pictures state. These pictures state that you can be poor anywhere. I think a lot of people don't realize just because your cost of living goes down doesn't mean that there's not a lot of poor people in those specific areas. Let's just be realistic about this, okay? Let's just be realistic about this, okay? So, on that note, such people that left and gone to these specific area, their expenses sometimes stay the same. I have friends, like I said, they moved from California to Arizona or Texas or Georgia, and they got a little bit more for their money. Nothing wrong with that regarding a home, but their savings accounts are the same or worse because they have more money to spend, and they don't have the right spending habits, and they don't have the right mindset a lot of times when it comes to, and then a lot of times some people don't care because they just care about looking good and having the nice Gucci purses or whatever the heck, because I don't even know about the stuff at the time because that's how important it is. The jewelry, the car, they got to have that status that means absolutely nothing because great, you own a nice car, great, you own a nice house, but does it accumulate to an asset? No. So it all, unless you're like an Uber driver or something like that, or you're doing Airbnb out of your house, different story. A lot of people do that. So that's a people with the asset accumulation mindset. It's all about your spending habits and your financial literacy. Constantly get educated. I educate myself on this stuff all the time because to me, financial intelligence and literacy is like football. And guess what? Financial literacy season year round, 365 days a year, 12 months a year. It's not a season. It's a constant, ever growing beast, and I'm all about it. Okay, and I leave it at that. And let's bear in mind the main reason why gentrification, okay, is and will continue to be successful is because those who own the property constantly plan ahead of the people who rent from them. If you move from Northern Virginia to Florida and you don't at least own a home, stocks and bonds, or at least in talks with the right people about opening up a business, leaving something for your current or future children, then I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you because you do not think that just because you move to a cheaper state that you're in the safe zone. Unless you're rich and don't have to worry about a mortgage, then you're in the safe zone. But even then, if you're in a place where you don't have a mortgage, you still gotta have enough money to take care of that property because things do happen to the property. So whether you're rich or you're not rich, see, the rich never sleep. The rich, a lot of times they work harder than working people because they could have millions and billions of dollars all the time, but they want to know how that money's working because when you have a lot of money, that means you have a lot of employees. Okay, because that money is your employees. It's supposed to work for you. That money is supposed to work for you, period. If you're in a situation where you don't even have at least $20 working for you every month in stocks or bonds, and I don't know what to tell you on that one. You got all these apps out here. I've said them 1,000 times. Robinhood, Stash, Acorn, Coinbase, check them out. Don't just take my word for it. Do the research yourself. If you don't have any money working for you outside of a 401k, and if you have a 401k, obviously get an IRA, get an annuity, get anything outside of the norm. Don't be normal, be abnormal. It works. Believe me on that one. Okay. But it's like I said, I don't know what to tell you if you don't have these plans in place and if you're not in talks with it. And if you're even with a significant other and you're about it and they're not about it, then that's a problem too, because you got to get involved with that financial lovemaking. There's no other way to put it. You got to be around the right people. And that's why I put this picture out there. You have to be around the right people. So I'm going to get into a story that I found the other day in regards to a family who moved from an expensive city to a cheaper area of the United States of America. Excuse me. Okay, now this couple, they moved from New York City to Beaverton, Oregon, and this is the mini story that they were talking about with their experience. And the young lady said, and I quote, "Once I realized all the things I loved about New York City were no longer the things I did often or brought me joy, because it was so hard with the kids I couldn't afford to do it anymore, and I realized my quality of life would actually improve with less of an expensive city or area," as she explained. And a great example of the things that she did was go to the movies, go to Broadway, just go out and enjoy the nightlife of the city. But obviously, when you have kids, all that goes away. Your social life for the most part is over. So your life revolves around the children. So it is what it is. They decide to have children, so they got to take care of them. That's just the way life goes. So they kind of grew out of New York City. And that's what happens. A lot of times one can grow out of a place. Like I grew out of Virginia, that's why I'm a Californian. I grew out of Northern Virginia because I grew up there, so mindset, it's like you can grow up out of a place and that's cool, but you still have to, your mind has to continuously grow as well, outside of just being a good high paid employee and being beholden to a job and nothing else, I digress on that one. Now, as she explains, the Goldsteins, they opted to move to a city with lower cost of living where Marika, which is her name, has roots. And obviously it helps when you have roots in the area. The area is called Beaverton, Oregon, a suburb of Portland and one of Livability.com's 2015 best places to live. The resulting transformation was dramatic. The $1,700 a month they once paid for a one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes from Midtown Manhattan turned into a 4-bedroom house with a yard just 5 minutes from the grocery store. Now, $1,700 a month for a one-bedroom in Manhattan, it's crazy because I got friends and family that reside in the New York, Connecticut, Jersey area, and I think that's probably considered good prices and whatnot nowadays. But that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have had to leave New York City and go south in the Midwest because they can't afford to live in New York City. But hey, they got something for a bigger place, and obviously a place that's close to at least a grocery store. So hey, it's not so bad. And she said, and I quote, "My sister's brother and sister-in-law and my husband's cousin live in Oregon, so they figured that it would be a more affordable place," as they said, and adding that they appreciated not having to start all over when it comes to a social life. A lot of times that's what you have to do when you move to an area where you don't know anybody. But for some people like myself, I consider it to be an awesome adventure. So they have a lot of family, they have close friends, when they move back, and though her hourly wage slightly went lower in Oregon than it was in New York. And that's the thing, a lot of times I've known people that their salaries have gone down, but the cost of living is somewhat adjusted. And that's the thing. The main reason why the cost of living is a specific way is because not only mainly the taxes, but the main reason is because if whoever assesses the land where you buy the house on, they know that they can get X amount of dollars for it, period. Whoever is the landlord of a property, they know they can get X amount of dollars for it because they know that the employers are paying people X amount of dollars. I always say if a landlord in Mississippi could charge the same prices that a landlord in New York or Washington, D.C. charges, they would. They don't have those lower prices out of the kindness of their heart. They're just smart enough business people to know that nobody would ever rent their properties or buy the houses if they charge the same prices that they charge in New York, D.C., California, and Mississippi. It's not a diss against any state, what I just mentioned. It's just telling it like it is. Okay, let's be realistic about it. Okay, but I digress. Okay, so life for them, went good, and the beautiful thing, and like I said, this story actually worked out for them in a good way, because they could afford for her husband to stay at home and be a stay-at-home dad, and for at least for now. And she also stated that the biggest perks of moving to a more affordable city is that they have the ease of getting their twins from point A to B in a car, because in New York City they obviously didn't have a car, most people don't, and it was so much easier with the kids, and they have a larger house with amenities like a washer and dryer. Obviously live in an apartment building in New York, most likely you got to go to the laundry room, and they have a yard with good air quality and the decreased cost of commodities like food. So their quality of life actually went up, and I think it's a great thing. I just think that with the story, and there's obviously more to the story than what I just read you all, but I think the main problem with the story is that there's no talk of any sort of economic accumulation, asset accumulations outside of them. Like they've had to step up, But now what is the next step? And you never know, maybe there is a next step, but hopefully there is a next step to say, okay, well, husband's able to stay at home for now. Maybe he can have some sort of online business, because then they got the tax write-off from being married, having children, owning a home possibly, and having a business. If they add that business aspect into it, then they have something else to lead the children outside of just, the norm. And that's what I said. It's just all about changing the mindset at the end of the day. It's not downing anybody for what they're doing. We all could do better. I could do better. Self-improvement is what makes life better, and being content with who you are is awesome things, but I think we all grow. I think, what was it, Michelangelo, and he was in his 80s, they asked him, is there anything else? Do you still feel like you're learning? He said, every day I'm still learning something new. So we all can learn something new. And if you're just in the market to purely survive after the age of 35, 40 years old, the aspects of reevaluating your life should be in your best interest. That's just how I look at it. Once you get in that age frame, surviving should be more than just, it should be not the only thing on your mind anymore. Handling your business, we call it come up, and stepping up should always equal to some form of ownership. Buying a house is a great thing, is a great start in ownership, but there's so much more. There's so much more to it. And if you don't have an ownership mindset, and it's just going to make life that much harder for especially your kids and your kids' generation. One thing I respect about my mother and my father, especially my father, is that there was, before he passed away, he left my mom something that helped raise me from an economic standpoint. And if he was still alive today, he'd probably have a lot more economic assets in line. So that's what you want to pass around the family generations. You want that right mindset to say, hey, look, we're going to be more than just normal. Even as working people, we're going to do something different. And the reason why I say this so much, because I see immigrants do it all the time. So regular working Americans can do it if they just stop worrying about what society thinks about them. So remember, can't get fired if you own the company. All you gotta do is worry about keeping the company alive and ensuring that it profits somehow, some way. And if you have employees, make sure they get paid. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It's been a while since I did a long video like this. So please give it a thumbs up. Please like, please share. And hey, you guys have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Same Larry's Anything Goes time. Sarah's Lame, Larry's Anything Goes place. Take care.